Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Five. It's Stav.
And it's Griff.
And today we're going to be recapping the Super Bowl. We're going to go through our party picks that we talked about last episode. We're going to go through the actual game. Will be joining us later on in the episode to recap the actual game. But Griff, it was a great Super Bowl. I'm excited to talk about it. Let's do this.
Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. The second half, I guess you could say, of the Super Bowl special, recapping the game, recapping all of our prop picks that we took in the prior episode. And we're going to get things started off here with a little bit of a review, a recap of our picks, who was right for each one, who was wrong for each one, who won at the end of it all as well. But we get things started at the beginning. With the national anthem, the over-under was set at 119.5. And Stav, like you said on the last episode, this was one of the only picks that, everybody had the same exact pick. We all had the over at 119.5, and it didn't hit.
It was by milliseconds, dude. It's so unfortunate because I was so sure. I mean, you and I were talking about it before we actually started recording. We all had our stopwatches out, right? And the timer went off at the 2-minute mark. And I was like, oh, sweet, this hit. And then like the official, I don't know who times it. Like, I think it went over, but everyone picks the over. So like, no, it's under. So that's what happened. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that it actually went over, but some official guy on Twitter, I guess, put out a stopwatch of like 0.21 milliseconds under, and the under hit.
I mean, throughout the whole national anthem, like especially the start of it, stuff, Chris Stapleton was extending the notes. And I feel like it almost got down to the point where I feel like maybe Chris Stapleton told all of his boys to take the under. He was going to make it close and have a good story at the beginning of the evening for the Super Bowl. I cannot believe that he went under. All six of us that participated in these picks chose the over. Did not hit. Moral of the story, did not hit. Chris Stapleton, it was a good rendition of the national anthem. I was eating wings at that moment in time, so I was definitely still in a happy space. But, I mean, a bad start to the document. And how about we keep it going here with the Gatorade color going to the end of the game? We're not going to be talking, by the way, about the game at all until the end of the game. So, I'm kidding. We'll throw a little picks for like our actual props and stuff like that. But we won't be recapping the game in its entirety until we talk about our spreads and our over-unders. But the Gatorade color, we all know who won the game, ended up being purple, which was the biggest underdog out of all. So I think once again, on purpose, I want to say the national anthem, the Gatorade color were two things where they screwed us over on purpose. Chris Stapleton knew what he was doing, and the crew from Kansas City knew what they were doing with the purple, because nobody on this podcast took purple. Nobody on this picks took purple. It was the biggest underdog. Nobody took purple. Nobody likes grape. Do you like grape Gatorade? I don't like grape Gatorade.
I don't hate it, but it's not my first choice. And I feel like a majority of people who are on that sideline don't think grape Gatorade's the number one choice. There's a reason why it was the biggest underdog. It's probably because it's the least popular Gatorade out there.
Like grape, like it's good. Grape is good.
I like grape, but it's not my go-to.
No, when you think of championship Gatorade bass, you think yellow, you think red, blue, and orange. I feel like those are like the big four. Purple was just a complete curveball. And I feel like since it was purple stuff, like you said, I feel like nobody on like the team, like that's not their first choice or anything. I think they just did that on purpose.
You think so?
I was like, it's kind of like, okay, if we're going to win the Super Bowl, we're going to we might as well just have the Gatorade be purple. Like, I don't even think that they even drank any of that Gatorade. I think that they filled that up. Like,
that's the
once Bucker hit his field goal, they were like, okay, let's make a fresh thing of Gatorade right now.
Yeah,
just in case we're ready to to dump it over Andy Reid. But purple, and by the way, the Gatorade color just wasn't shown.
Yeah, without the cameraman biggest fumble of all time, because after the game, everybody who's not a fan of the Chiefs only cares about the Gatorade color. I mean,
like I tweeted it on the Inside the Five Twitter account. Everybody was tweeting about it. Nobody knew what color it was.
That's the last bet of Super Bowl. I mean, other than MVP, but MVP can kind of be argued that's a bet during the game. That's the last party prop of the NFL season. You need to show that. That is the most important thing of this season, to be honest. And it's just the all-time fumble by the cameraman. I think you tweeted that he needed to be fired, or that might have been somebody else.
No, I just said, one second. I just said, someone tell me what the Gatorade color is. That's all I said.
Yeah, okay, fair. Somebody else tweeted out that he needed to be fired, and I agree. I mean, that's an all-time fumble. You got to keep the camera. I mean, regardless of the color, that's something everyone wants to see. You want to see the head coach getting doused in Gatorade.
100%, especially Andy Reid.
Yeah, that would have been all-time fumble. But next.
But I mean, yeah. Just to wrap it up, Gatorade color rigged, national anthem rigged. So we got to move on to something that isn't rigged. It's the coin toss. And this is actually something that I really was confident in, Stav. And me and Darren both had heads. The majority, you, Will, Jaden, and Nico all had tails. At the end of the day, it's a 50-50. It's a true 50-50. But the good part of this, this is the third one. Nobody has gotten anything right. You had to put the coin toss in our top three so somebody could be right, because after this, we got two more where we missed, which, I mean, we will talk about the halftime show. I think we should talk about it right now. There's not too much to talk about the coin toss. It's literally heads or tails. The halftime show, Stav, as a Rihanna super fan, before we get into any of our predictions, I just want like an overall feeling. I want like an overall like reaction to it, to you seeing she's pregnant once again. Is it ASAP's kid? Whose kid is that? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with this halftime show.
No, the halftime show is absolutely electric. I think she killed it. Everyone at the function that I was with thought that she killed it as well. As a Rihanna super fan, I'll give it an 8.7 out of 10. There's always room for improvement, right? Some things that she could have done to improve her score, maybe bring on a special guest to sing with her, right? I mean, all the lights, you're probably not going to bring on Kanye West. We know that wasn't going to happen. Jay-Z could have came on. He was there. He could, if he was a special guest, this would have been the best halftime show of all time, right?
I think I would agree.
If Eminem came on for Love the Way You Lie, would have been the best halftime show of all time. If each of the, I mean, the show was about Rihanna. Rihanna deserved the spotlight. That's why I gave her an 8.7.
And that's why I think that Rihanna didn't invite anybody onto the stage with her. Rightfully so. It was her moment.
Yeah, exactly.
It was her moment.
It was her moment, and she killed it.
She did. And we'll get into a little bit about our predictions for the first song of the halftime show. None of us were correct. A complete curveball. Bitch Better Have My Money was not something I was expecting, Stav. I was expecting it throughout the performance. I wasn't ready for it to be the first song.
None of us got any of these right.
No. I mean, these are tough bets, though. The first song was a 3-pointer on our scale, and the last song was a 5-pointer on our scale. The last song ended up being Diamonds.
Yeah.
Which I'm pissed about, because I had Diamonds as the first song of the halftime show.
Absolutely killed it too with Diamonds. Diamonds was a great way to end the show.
Beautiful. It was beautiful.
It was a great show. I can't complain. The choreography was awesome. She's awesome.
She was in the air.
She was in the air the entire time. The one thing that I saw a lot of people complaining about online is she stole Kanye West's stage design.
All of the lights scene. Yeah, I think she did that on purpose.
Yeah, I think so too. Rihanna doesn't do anything by mistake. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, but I saw a lot of Kanye fans saying that. But great performance. I think it's the best one that we've seen in the past few years. I think this one was better than last year's.
Who was last year?
It was Snoop Dogg.
Eminem. Oh yeah, it was the
Rap Avengers.
The Rap Avengers.
Yeah, it was
yeah, no. See, I knew who it was last year, but like they sucked. It was terrible. I'm trying to think of the last like good one. Bruno Mars was good, but I think that I was there, so like it was kind of biased, and that was
I was there
2014.
I was there for Justin Timberlake.
I didn't like JT's. I'm a Justin Timberlake guy. I didn't like Justin Timberlake's halftime performance.
No, I didn't. So I didn't know if I've talked about this with other people too, if it was better on TV, because sometimes the effects only appeal to those who are watching on TV. I mean, compared like hundreds of millions watching on TV compared to whatever 70,000 that are there. But in part, it just kind of felt underwhelming for Justin Timberlake. I mean, I don't think. I mean, well, I don't know why we're talking about Justin Timberlake. Essentially, I mean, the only reason they could have done better for that. I wish I saw a better concert. I wish I saw Rihanna. If Rihanna was there, I would have went nuts.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like to compare it to my experience in person, Bruno Mars was. I mean, there's never a moment too big for Bruno Mars, in my opinion. Bruno Mars is a true professional. Bruno Mars. I mean, one of my favorite voices. Like, if I had to choose like voices that I wanted to hear at all times, like Bruno Mars would be up there. Morgan Freeman would be up there.
For me.
But like there was never a moment too big for Bruno Mars. The thing with Rihanna is there's never, I mean, it's the same thing, but in a sense where I feel like Rihanna is just like, if you put Rihanna in any situation, it turns into a big situation.
Yeah.
Like Rihanna's, in my opinion, this is gonna be a hot take. Hopefully there's not too many 40 to 50-year-old females listening to this, which obviously there isn't. But I feel like Rihanna is almost in Beyonce level, where Rihanna did her thing, right? I mean, we know Destiny's Child with Beyonce, but with Rihanna, she did her thing on her own, and then she left, right? And Beyonce kind of went on her little break too, and that's when she turned into like Queen Bee type shit. Rihanna, when she left, everybody missed her, and this was the big return of Rihanna. And once again, that's one of the biggest moments ever. I mean, I could throw that up there with the Queen halftime Super Bowl performance in terms of like, just like the moment, you know? And I feel like Rihanna can't live down to that moment because she is the moment, and Rihanna's on her way to being crowned queen.
Oh, 100%. The one thing that I find so fascinating about the Super Bowl halftime show is, all right, actually, this is perfect because at the Super Bowl you went to the Broncos Seahawks, and the Seahawks were just dominating that game, right? Yeah. So you didn't care how long that halftime show went. You were just enjoying it, right? I mean, because you weren't necessarily worried per se.
No.
But so I went to the Patriots game, the Super Bowl against the Eagles that they ended up losing, but the Patriots were down at half, right? And I just wanted the halftime show to be over. I just wanted the second half to start. I wanted to see the comeback, right? I was anxious. So the perspectives of different fans on how they perceive the halftime show is something that I think is interesting, because I saw on Twitter a lot of the time, like a lot of people on the Chiefs were like, "Oh, great halftime show, but we need to get the second half underway. We want to come back." And then like a lot of the time, the Eagles fans were like, "Oh, we're up. We don't really care." Essentially, like, this is a great show. You can enjoy the show a little less stressed out compared to those who are down essentially at half. So I'm glad that we have this sample size right here, the two opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, no, super fair. But just final thoughts, Stav. Super Bowl halftime show. You said 8.7. Is that correct? 8.7. She started with "Bitch Better Have My Money," Stav. She ended with "Diamonds." You gave your prediction, "Disturbia" as the beginning, "Take a Bow" as the ending. Hypothetical situation. Do you think that she ran the first and last song appropriately, or do you think that maybe she should have gone "Disturbia" first and "Take a Bow" second?
She did it right with, I wasn't thinking that would be the first song. I didn't even think that she would play that song.
Yeah.
That's how you get a show started, though. You get the people going.
She did her thing. She did her thing. Exactly. I'm glad that I wanted to wrap back to my answer my own question. I mean, I think the track list was perfect.
100%. Everyone forgets how many bangers Rihanna has.
Oh no, and you
She
can't.
didn't miss on one song that she performed.
You can't. You like Rihanna could run like a 3 to 4 hour concert of like straight bangers that everybody knows every word to, and you're like, wait, I didn't even know I was that big of a Rihanna fan. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like people that don't realize that they like Rihanna know maybe 10, 11, 12 Rihanna songs. That's how big she is. And nobody talks about it. That's why I think she's on her level to Beyonce. And if you're part of the demographic that's interested in those debates, aka 40 to 50-year-old females, and you're also listening to this podcast, I would love to get your opinion on this topic. But how about we move on to the next topic?
Before we end the party props, I want to bring up the commercials.
Yes.
They need to stop. Just a few things, quick. One, they need to stop releasing Super Bowl commercials before the Super Bowl, right? Because I feel like there were no new cool Super Bowls that were memorable. I mean, the Breaking Bad one was cool, but like they released that. I knew that was coming. If they didn't release it, it would have been cool. But I feel like every single commercial that was on, I mean, I really wasn't paying attention to the commercials because how we had the setup at where I was is like they have an upstairs, right? And it was a lounge, and that's where they had the TV. And then downstairs, they kept all the food. So like during commercials, I was walking downstairs and getting food. But also the Tubi commercial, just
that completely screwed with me.
No, I hope
they go bankrupt. What?
I hope they go bankrupt.
I mean, it was messed up.
You can't do that. And like, so let me tell you a story. So my dad at our church's men club, he's the one who sets up all the technology for the Super Bowl event that they have. They had like 40, they had 50 people there. It's one of the bigger events. And he's in charge of setting up all the TVs, the streaming, all of that, right? So he was like in the back, not really paying attention. It was a commercial. And when that menu popped up, just think of like 35 old Greek guys just screaming at you, like cussing him out because they thought he was changing the channel. And he's just sitting in the back, like eating or something. And I'm like, yeah, right when that happened in the back of my head, I'm like, oh my God, my dad's getting screamed at right now. And I called him this morning and talked about it. And he's like, it was the worst 10 seconds of my life. It's like, I don't have the fucking remote. Why are you guys yelling at me? And then like I say 35 out of 50 because like 15 people realized it was a commercial.
Yeah. No, so I had like there's maybe 10 people at my apartment, and picture the same thing but with like the way that college kids would approach it, and I'm in charge of the remote. So I'm the remote guy, but all of the remotes I put under the TV so nobody else would touch them, and if somebody went to go touch it, I would be able to see it. But I didn't even have a remote near me in case I accidentally pressed a button, like leaned on it or something. I take that stuff seriously. And when it started, right away I was like, oh, this is a commercial. Like, I'm not touching anything. It's a commercial. And just picture like 9 other kids that are like 20, 21 years old going, Griff, bro, like, what are you doing, Griff? Like, and I'm just like, I'm not doing anything. I'm sitting here eating wings right now. Like, I'm not, I'm not touching anything. But I mean, I'm glad that you brought up the commercial stuff, because overall, this year, if we were to rate this on a scale of W to L, it was an L commercial year, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think the commercial sucked. It was the highest paying year to buy a 30-second ad, $7 million for a 30-second ad. And the only commercials I remember were the Jack Harlow triangle one when he was like going to go on like world tour. And I only remember that because, I mean, that was just 100% the Illuminati. I mean, there was just no doubt in my mind. And then other than that, I remember the ones that always get me, because I'm like a hyper-focused kid, is the ones where nothing's going on. There's just a QR code in the middle of the screen. And like there's just like a weird like noise in the background. Those ones, like, for some reason I always remember those ones, but I never scanned the QR code, so I have no idea what it was for. That was early in the game. Other than that, I don't remember other commercials. And I feel like year in and year out, like there's a few commercials each year that you truly are like, I mean, like, there's been commercials in the Super Bowl that have made me cry, like the Miller Lite dog and horse commercials.
Yep.
There was not a single dog/horse commercial where a dog and a horse could either begin a beautiful friendship or end a beautiful friendship. And I feel like if there's a year without one of those commercials, it's an L year.
Okay, the one thing that I thought was kind of funny, but I'm gonna explain my reasoning why. Because you brought up Miller Lite, the Coors versus Miller Lite debate,
Well,
and then
I was waiting for it because of
and then-
PMT. I was waiting for it.
Blue Moon swoops in and wins, and it's like the Blue Moon. I know that's all owned by the same company,
Yeah.
but Blue Moon, like what they
Blue
think
Moon
was
fucking sucks.
it's like, oh shit, Blue Moon won. I gotta go run out and buy some Blue Moons right now. It's like, no one gives a fuck about Blue Moon. No one actually gave a fuck about Miller versus Coors. And when it comes down to it, it's not like you're gonna change your perception of beer because Coors beat Miller, Miller beat Coors, and then Blue Moon. It's like they expected it to be like a WWE Royal Rumble like reaction where the crowd goes fucking nuts when like John Cena comes out of nowhere. No one cares that Blue Moon. Everyone's like, oh.
No.
Perception of what was gonna happen and what actually happened was way too different.
Nah, and it sucked. It sucked. That was one of the commercials that they were like, we're not releasing this until the Super Bowl, but just know that it's Miller Lite versus Coors Light. Who's gonna win? And that was a good marketing strategy, and you ruined it.
How do you fumble the bag that bad?
Like that was something that I was thinking about that, and I didn't care about it at all once I saw the commercial. I didn't care about it. Like
I didn't realize it at first. Like I was like, what do you mean Blue Moon? Why? And then I
and hypothetical situation, you have Miller, Coors, and Blue Moon. Blue Moon's not winning that.
Yeah. Just based off of popularity.
I mean, based off of every single attribute, Blue Moon's not winning that.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I thought Coors was gonna. I think Coors did win if they did some sort of vote.
Yes, it was definitely. It had to have been Coors.
Yeah, but
Coors had the world behind it. You know, Coors had everyone behind it.
I don't even think Blue Moon was trending on Twitter after that. I don't think anyone gave a flying fuck what happened.
I don't think any commercials were trending on Twitter.
Yeah, usually you get.
I mean, it's probably the first year that's ever happened.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're right. I'm glad you brought up the commercials because that was a talking point that needed to be discussed. One of the worst commercial years we've ever had in the history of Super Bowls, I would say overall. But good thing we had a good halftime show. I feel like it cancels that out. And to end off the little party picks, we have our final little piece, which is actually, I mean, I guess you could say during the game. Will a fan run on the field, Stav? I graded this as a no. I don't think a fan ran on the field.
No,
I didn't see
heard anything.
I didn't see anybody run on the field.
No.
Which was kind of stupid. I feel like every single major event, somebody should be running on the field.
Yeah.
What's happened to America?
Speaking, oh God, I should have brought this up too with the commercials. The Gronk field goal was just a failure.
My God.
He made that.
No, because on Fox for months they were talking about Gronk's going to kick a field goal at halftime of the Super Bowl. I'm expecting him to kick a 30-yarder in Arizona at the stadium during the game.
That's what should have happened.
Dude, he was on Patrick Grass in the middle of the desert with like his family.
Not only that, people have slowed it down. It looked like it went in. And they just said he missed.
But I think they did that. They did that on purpose to try to trend, to try to go trending on Twitter, and they still didn't.
No, they didn't. And everyone hates like the only thing I saw on Twitter about that was like, okay, I'm never betting FanDuel again. Now we know that they're corrupt.
Yeah.
Because he made it because people bet on that. Like,
really?
Yeah, because it was a line in FanDuel, like, will Gronk make the field goal? Yes, like plus whatever. People were betting on it. He made it. And they said no good.
And they said no good. I was confused. I thought I could have swore I saw it go in. And they were like, as it drifts further left, it's no good. I was like, what do you mean it's no good? Like that
it went in. Like literally, if people who are listening go watch this on Twitter, people slow it down and you could see the ball clearly going inside of the upright. And they just ruled it no good. How do you just morally not do that? I don't know. All right. Back to the actual game props. Yeah, I just needed to get that one quickly off my chest.
Oh, definitely.
If you take it back from here.
Yeah. So we'll get into some game props now. Overall, so far, there is a three-way lead or two-way lead or three-way lead between Gustav, Nico, and Darren. So it gets into game props. It switches up a lot from here on out. Let's get it started with a sweep of the first kickoff resulting in a touchback. Everybody predicted yes.
My vision.
A lock. You didn't?
No, I said my vision.
Oh, your vision. Yes, your vision. Exactly. I was going to say, I thought I could have swore that I cut up a clip of us doing hand signals for like 15 seconds. But we all hit. Thank God on that one. That was a great way to start. So the Super Bowl, the way that I started off my actual betting slips was I had the national anthem over. I had the coin toss heads. And I had first kickoff resulting in a touchback. I had the most money on first kickoff resulting in a touchback. Yep. Thank God, because the other two did not hit. I actually heard some news before the game Sunday morning that 2 of the last 9 Super Bowls resulted in a touchback. The other 7 hadn't. So you could imagine shaking in my boots as Harrison Butker slipped on the grass.
Yep.
Which we're going to have to talk about the grass in a little bit as well. Slipped on the grass opening kickoff and somehow still got it into the end zone. I mean, that was an electric way to start.
He kind of did our Madden strategy. Like, I don't just kick it. Yeah. Well,
to the line.
Yeah. You skunk kick it to the left corner of the end zone. And that's what he did. But it wasn't incidental, or he didn't necessarily do it on purpose. The kick didn't look deep. I saw that going at a line drive, and I got nervous. I'm like, oh, no, he's about to take this out. And it curved to the left. Boston Scott waved it off, like I said. And, hey, my dream was right. You guys are welcome for the free money.
I mean, just an absolute, like, emotional roller coaster of, like, 2.5 seconds. It was insane. It was everything you'd ever want from a Super Bowl touchback. That was one of the better touchbacks I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely electric.
Because you weren't expecting it. He messed up, and we still got our bet. And shout out Harrison Butker. He was a reason why I didn't hit a bet, so it's still F him. Actually, 2 different bets, or 1 bet, 1 pick on this. My obscure pick. We'll get to that, but didn't hit because of Harrison Butker. We all did good on the touchback. Pistol P William is now on the episode. Will, you found us at a perfect time. We just started the game props. We just talked about first kickoff resulting in a touchback. We're moving on now to the first coach's challenge outcome. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the first challenge came from the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid on a ball spot. Is that correct?
No, I think I thought it was successful with the Devonta Smith. No, because remember Devonta, was that a coach's challenge or a booth review? When Devonta
was it the scoring play or no?
No, it was Devonta Smith. He caught it and bobbled it out of bounds. And then Sirianni did the thing like, okay, bring the ball over here, like mocking Kansas City.
Now I'm thrown off. I thought it was. Remember,
you tell me yours, and I'll see.
Andy Reid. What was it? It was like the Eagles got a first down, or no?
Wow. It was the play where the Eagles. I forgot who. I want to say it was Dallas Goedert, but I feel like I'm wrong. He came across the middle of the field, grabbed the ball.
That was in the second half.
Whether or not he dragged his foot before the ball came in, they were questioning whether or not he had both feet in bounds at the time of the catch.
They said it was a catch, but then, they said, wait. Now I believe thrown off.
So what happened was
I'm searching it up right now.
The Eagles sped up the play, and then the next play
but there was
a
dead ball, offside.
The
ball got blown dead, and then Andy Reid threw the flag, but it was unsuccessful.
They were eligible for challenge.
And that was in the second half. That was in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Wait, that was it a booth review then?
I feel like I couldn't tell if it was a challenge or a booth review.
I don't think Sirianni threw a red challenge flag.
No. So Devonta Smith, remember in the first half, they threw a deep shot to him and he caught it around the 7-yard line and he lost possession. Kind of the ball like hit the ground when he was out of bounds. And then they reviewed it, but it might have been under 2 minutes. So that's a booth review.
In the second quarter?
It ended up being overturned, yes.
So there's just not a coach's challenge.
Well, I don't know if that was a coach's challenge or a booth review.
Yeah.
Booth review. Birth review, not a challenge.
Okay.
Not a challenge.
Okay. Perfect.
So, I mean, this works out for you, Stav, because you had first coach's challenge unsuccessful. Mm-hmm. Me and Will had successful, along with Jaden. The two others, Darren and Nico, also had unsuccessful. It was that Andy Reid call, which was the only challenge of the game. All other were booth review. And the other one that I was thinking of was the first score of the game, where it could have been Gainwell, but they were short. That was also a booth review because all scoring plays are reviewed.
Want to know the worst beat of all time?
Let's hear it.
My uncle had Kenneth Gainwell first touchdown.
A lot of people I know had him, and I had him. This is a good win. The opposite of whatever the opposite you'd say of a bad beat is. I had Kenneth Gainwell over 20.5 rushing yards. He had 21.
Ooh.
He had 21. Awesome.
That's a hit. That's a good hit.
Yeah. It was awesome. But first challenge, unsuccessful. Mm-hmm. Andy Reid threw one down in the third quarter. That was the only challenge of the game.
That's not who I expected to have the unsuccessful challenge.
You thought, I remember on the pod you said you thought it was going to be Sirianni because he is emotional. And Sirianni, we should have talked about it during the national anthem over. He was emotional. I have cried during the national anthem. I love my country. I love the Stars and Stripes, and I love the national anthem. But Nick Sirianni was like emotionally like attached to that rendition of the national. Must be a big country guy.
Yeah, Chris Stapleton killed the national anthem. We kind of skipped over that. He killed it. Did a great job.
It was a great rendition. It was a great rendition. I was just around 10 college age men at the time, so I'm not going to be crying during a national anthem. I was too busy timing it, of course. Nick Sirianni, though, I mean, just what an emotional roller coaster he went through yesterday.
Uh-huh. We'll get to the game, but I think he deserved to be humbled a little bit.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next one. The highest scoring quarter, which one of us got right out of the picks. Jaden with the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
He must have known something. Fourth quarter, we'll talk about it in just a minute here now. But fourth quarter was exciting. It could have ended a lot differently. It could have ended a lot more in more of a exciting nature. But I would argue that the first 12 minutes of the fourth quarter was some of the best Super Bowl football we've seen, especially in the past few years. I would even argue the same thing about this game, with how close it was, with all the different things surrounding it. The highest scoring quarter being the fourth is great for the league. It makes it more interesting, makes it more fun. But the little tidbit that I had about it, me and Nico bet said the second. Everybody else had the third. The fourth quarter only had one more point than the second quarter because if you guys remember, the Eagles down 8 needed the 2-point conversion. Jalen Hurts got it. So 1 point off it being the second quarter. But I mean, I feel like a lot of people guessed third in this situation. Shout out Jaden for snagging a point when nobody else grabs a point here with the fourth quarter. But overall, I mean, just an absolute scoring onslaught. The second highest scoring Super Bowl of all time.
Yeah, which is epic. I mean, that was we'll get to it, but yeah, we saw some fireworks.
Yeah, and we'll go right into anytime touchdown bets where I guess we'll list right now. I had Isaiah Pacheco anytime. Stav had Dallas Goedert. Will had AJ Brown. Jaden had Devonta Smith. Darren had Jalen Hurts, and Nico rode with you, Stav, with Dallas Goedert. I wouldn't have been surprised throughout this game if all of them hit. If all of those hit. Will congratulations. A.J. Brown found his way into the end zone. Darren, congratulations. Hurts found his way into the end zone 3 times. And I cashed on Isaiah Pacheco. Shout out Isaiah Pacheco throughout this game. Stav missed out on Dallas Goedert. Jaden missed out on Devonta Smith, and obviously Nico missed out on Dallas Goedert as well. But those two guys, Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, put up great games. And I want to especially say Devonta Smith, who, I mean, was getting beat the whole game, like physically, like on the first drive. Remember, he picked up the first down. I mean, when he got hit, I didn't think that there was a chance he was coming back in this game. And he ended up coming back into the game, obviously. He finished with the most receiving yards between either team. He finished with 100 yards. Didn't find his way into the end zone, though, sadly. But, I mean, this is a team that's going to be back. And Devonta Smith is going to be back. And Devonta Smith put up, I mean, a heroic performance in the Super Bowl. I mean, he's one of the smallest guys in the league, height or weight wise, and he was getting thrown around like a rag doll, but it didn't matter. It was kind of, I don't want to say Edelman-esque because they play different roles and positions at the wide receiver position, but just the way that, like, you know, we've seen Edelman, we've seen Welker, especially Welker, get like just pounded every single time he has the ball. Devonta Smith had 7 receptions. I feel like every single time, or at least 5 of those, he was getting like hit sticked.
Yeah, he was getting laid out last night. Absolutely laid out.
He's getting hit sticked.
He was getting popped, and he just kept getting up. Like I found a new respect for Devonta Smith. I mean, I found a new respect for a majority of everybody who was on the field yesterday. To be honest,
yes.
I think both teams deserve to be there. There's no doubt. I think it really silenced. We'll get to it again, but this game silenced a lot of doubters between both of these teams.
Definitely. And I'll speed up the process here because I'm ready to talk about the game. But
yeah,
first touchdown score, Jaden and Nico hit on Hurts rushing. Stav, you had Miles Sanders. Will, you had Devonta Smith. I had Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce was the second touchdown of the day. And for obscure stats, Harrison Butker screwed me by missing one of his field goals. I had both teams over 1.5 field goals made. Tough bet. Stav, you had the exact final score. You thought you had the script.
Hey, I was only off by 1 point in reverse.
Yeah, I know. I was actually getting nervous when Kansas City got 35. I was like, this could easily happen where Philly scores a touchdown with enough time. They just kick a field goal because, I mean, 2-point conversions are very scary. They get the ball back, kick a field goal, Stav, and you hit plus 8,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been insane.
I didn't bet on it, but I know somebody who did, and it was ridiculous payout.
Yeah, I mean, I could only imagine. And Will, game ending in a scoregami. I mean, that's a tough thing to get.
Yeah, I mean, we really just threw it out there, have some fun, hope to see something interesting, Scoregami is always something fun to see when it happens, so why not? That was my mentality.
Definitely, but shout out Nico with the first half over, a lock. Yeah. I cashed on the first quarter over.
Me too.
And shout out Jaden, defensive or special teams anytime touchdown at plus 230. He got it at around it. When Nick Bolton, I mean, scooped and scored. You could argue. I mean, we're getting on to the point where we're talking about our spread and over under, so we can talk about it. Was that the biggest moment of the game?
Yeah, that completely changed momentum. At that point, the Eagles were up 14-7, driving essentially. Like they could have went up 21-7 or 17-7 and how this game was going. That really kept the Chiefs in it because you don't know what's going to happen in that Eagles drive. Up to that point, Kansas City had no answer. The Eagles went down twice and scored twice. So,
exactly. I mean, shout out Jaden cashing in on that. I wouldn't have guessed that would happen. And we almost even had a punt return touchdown in the game with Kadarius Toney. He brought it down to 5. That was another big play. But with the spreads, we had 2 people take Philadelphia. Stav, you were one of them. Jaden was the other. And Will, congratulations. Myself, congratulations. Darren, Nico, shout out you guys picking Kansas City. Crazy game. Like I've been saying throughout the whole episode, and we can finally talk about it. We all cashed on the over. Like I said, it was the second highest scoring Super Bowl of all time. I don't remember the exact year, but somebody told me it was like somebody told me the game. It was like the Chargers versus somebody. Stop if you can find that. I know you're looking it up. Bad journalism, so I'm not gonna keep going on about it. But this game from the very start,
the Patriots and Eagles scored more than these two teams did a few years back.
Oh, so was it this one? Was it that one? It might have been that one.
It might have been that one. I know in that game, the most total yards were accumulated. I think the final, because I know the 49ers put up like 50 on the Chargers, I think it was. So
yeah, that was the game that somebody in my class this morning told me it was the second highest game, and it was a Chargers game. They got like blown out.
Okay, so yes, the highest scoring Super Bowl was the Chargers and the 49ers, where they combined for 75 points. And the Patriots and Eagles combined for 74. And then this game, the combined score was 73.
Oh, so the third. That's on me. It was the third. But that doesn't take back on the excitement of it at all. In Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes, who I bet on, thank God that hit. It was pretty much whatever team won the quarterback was going to be the Super Bowl MVP, unless I would say if Nick Bolton got that second scoop and score.
Yep, that's what I was going to say.
Very close to happening. It was very close to happening. But throughout this game, a lot of jabs thrown. We all know that the Chiefs did not go a drive without scoring in the second half. But the first half is really what I want to look into, because you go into the second quarter, tied 7-7. Philadelphia goes on a little run. They go into halftime up 10, right? Mm-hmm. And from there on out, you know that the Chiefs aren't out of it. But you don't, you're obviously not confident down 10, right? You're down 2 scores. I think the Eagles got the ball back.
No, the Chiefs got the ball for the second half, because the Eagles they received the first hit because Boston got on the touchback.
That's 100% right. Excuse me. It's been a long day. But yeah, they get the ball back, they go down, they score. That's right. I was just completely thrown off. That's a big start right there. But throughout that first half, it was kind of just, I feel like the Chiefs weren't out of it at all, but I just feel like nothing was really clicking. Like Patrick Mahomes was having his moments, getting guys down the field. I just feel like at that point, Hurts was, throwing the hell out of the ball. And that was the whole point that was made, that you turn Hurts into a quarterback and don't let that team run the ball and see what happens. And for a second, it was like, okay, they did that, but Hurts is commanding, right? Hurts is like giving the ball to everybody. And Devonta Smith had 100 yards. A.J. Brown
had that ball, A.J. Brown touchdown. Threw absolute dime on that ball. Yeah, that ball.
Exactly. And he was throwing the ball all around the field, and it just kind of looked like Philly, not that they were going to take over at all. It just didn't look like there was really any sign of slowing them down. And the Chiefs –
sorry to interrupt, but essentially they never did get stopped. I
was going to say that.
That's what was great about this game. The really only miscues, and we harp on this a lot. I know we already talked about us and Madden and our special team strategies, but it's crazy how much special teams actually impacts the game. And that's where this game was won and lost, in my opinion.
Agreed. I would agree 100%, because both offenses were on the whole day. A lot of hate is getting deflected towards Philadelphia's defense, but when you go up against Patrick Mahomes, it's pretty hard to stop. But when Butker missed that field goal in the first half, that was a big deal.
Yeah,
they needed to kind of even off that playing field, where I feel like the offenses were kind of matching up. The defenses were kind of matching up, in my opinion, too. And it showed through the score of how even it really was throughout. They needed to get it back on special teams. And I would even count, obviously, that defensive touchdown, which we said was probably the turning point in that game. But Kadarius Toney's return to the 5-yard line, you couldn't imagine a bigger moment in the Super Bowl, to happen on a punt return, getting it all the way down to the 5. We've never seen a punt return touchdown. We've seen a kick return touchdown in the Super Bowl, never a punt return. That was, insane to get it all the way down to the 5. You have unlimited time to come back in this game at this point. You have the best possible field position that you could have without being on like the 1 yard line or even in the end zone at that point. You get the job done. Pacheco scores a touchdown. And from there on out, I mean, the offense, the Kansas City offense was unstoppable in the second half. And it proved they didn't go a drive scoreless in the second half. They scored on every single drive.
And what's so crazy about that too, it's like, if you look at the box score, it's not overwhelming.
No.
Like,
especially Patrick Mahomes stats.
Mahomes didn't throw for over 200 yards, which is just absolutely. He threw for 182, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if you see, I mean, he did throw for 3 touchdowns, but it's like, if you look at the box score and you see, okay, Mahomes only threw for 182 yards. There was only 1 rushing touchdown. You're like, oh shit, the Eagles must have just dominated this game. No, they got production out of everybody. You look at Pacheco, he had 76 yards on the ground. Mahomes had 44 on the ground. McKinnon had 34. Like, there's a lot of production coming from these external positions, and they were returning. Like, they did well with the returns on special teams. I think the Eagles punted twice, and both times Kadarius Toney had a pretty good return on it.
Yep. Yeah. They punted twice. Toney had his longest return of 65 yards. The other one went for around 15 yards, which is good for a punt, because usually punts either end in a fair catch or a dead ball. So it goes right back to that point of just kind of prioritizing, making sure that you know how important special teams is in a football game. And I mean, the only other like Super Bowl that I can think of where special teams was so prevalent in a game was the Rams Patriots, but that's just because of how low scoring it was. I feel like the field goals just meant a little bit more. There was a few like good punts, like great punts. I mean, I remember we were watching that Super Bowl together, the Pats Rams, and there were points where like, okay, like depending on what team wins it, if the Rams win it, like that punter, it was Hecker at that point. Hecker,
but he pinned like every single time. Like it was like single-digit yard line, like almost every single time.
No, exactly. That was the last time I could really remember special teams being such a big thing. And I actually just thought about it. I feel like such an idiot. I said that there's never been a punt return, but there totally has been in the Seahawks Super Bowl that I was literally at, because that was the only other Super Bowl I could remember anything special teams wise. But this was a game where the kickers were involved. The Harrison Butker missing a field goal was a big deal in the first half. We didn't know what was going to happen after that. Jake Elliott hit both of his field goals. He went 3 for 3 from extra point. Each kicker hit their over in total points. They were both at 7.5. Butker had 8. Jake Elliott had 9. Everybody was scoring. Everybody was scoring points. There was, I feel like, kind of my biggest, and then I'll step back for a little bit because I feel like I've been talking a lot. My biggest takeaway from the game was something that I didn't think that could even happen. Kansas City outran Philadelphia. And, I mean, I think that's exactly how and why they won the game. I think that Jalen Hurts obviously ran for his 3 touchdowns, but the game that Isaiah Pacheco put together and the game on the ground that Patrick Mahomes put together with an ankle injury was terrific, was not dominant, but way more than what you thought that they were going to do. They ran for 158 yards against the best D-line in football, and that offensive line showed how good they really were. And, I mean, they've been great all season, pass protecting, run blocking as well, in my opinion. It's opened up a lot of holes for Pacheco, and I feel like Pacheco, even with 76 yards, as I already said, really shined, at least to me, in this game.
Agreed. I mean, I feel like obviously everyone talks about Philly's defense last night. And I mean, yes, I guess it was kind of questionable. But when you get yourself in a situation where it's an offensive battle, which we really haven't seen all that often in the Super Bowls, obviously high-scoring game, as the defense, there's not much you can do in those situations when the offense is just rolling. Like, I mean, yeah, you can make adjustments. Yeah, you would expect them to do as much as they can. But, I mean, there's nothing really you can take away from that. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I got, one, at halftime, I was ready to double down on the Chiefs. I was like, I had a feeling. I was like, I don't know. I didn't do it, but I was like, Andy Reid making halftime adjustments is just automatic. Like I knew there was something going on there. I mean, granted, if they didn't end up getting the scoop and score, Eagles go down and score again, I'd feel a little bit less confident about thinking about it at all. But Jalen Hurts is literally the real deal. I think that's the big takeaway from this. That like him having a good game and losing is acceptable, very acceptable as an Eagles fan. I feel like you can go into the future and be like, they still have picks, they have everything. Like even though this is a tough loss, there's still a lot of work that they can do.
Well,
besides the free agents, there's the free agent problem that they got going on. There's like a fucking paragraph list of people that are going out, but like and possible retirements. But I feel like for what they could have done, you can't, in my opinion, Andy Reid making adjustments, there's very little you can do to change that, especially Nick Sirianni being a young coach.
Well, that too, and Andy Reid, how he calls his offense, I don't know what's the percentage between him and Bieniemy and how much. I mean, I think Bieniemy calls the plays, but whatever. You can see on these drives that the Eagles were flying on motions, right? They were absolutely flying, crashing down on motions. And the fact that twice that each time that the Chiefs were in the red zone, like close, I think within the 5-yard line, they would send Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney in motion, right? And the corner would follow, hard crash, somebody would switch, right? And then the next play, they would do a half motion and then cut back, basically a counter with the receiver motion, leaving him wide open because the corner already switched off and wasn't covering that. It's just genius. Like when you view football,
and they did it twice. They did back-to-back scoring.
Exactly. Like in the setup plays back-to-back too. They ran those two plays each time when they were within the 5-yard line. The play where they send the receiver fully in motion, making sure that the corner crashes, and then the second time, the scoring play, when it was a half motion and the cutback. That is just beautiful. It's a chess match, right? It's absolutely a chess match, and I loved watching that.
Yeah, Stav, I'm glad that you said that because it was truly like an offensive masterclass. Like this was, I mean, it's the Super Bowl, right? You unleash all the tricks out of the bag, but it got to the point where, I mean, the Chiefs it turned into a physical battle. It turned into a mental battle. It was like, in terms of like every single aspect of the game in the second half, the Chiefs, I mean, just like it might have been experience. It might have been coaching. I bet it was a mixture of a little bit of everything. But I feel like the Chiefs just like, they have that step-by-step mentality. And something that stood out to me, Stav, before the game was the stat that no team going into today had been down in the playoffs. No, each team was either tied or had a lead at every single point throughout their playoff run. And that made me just like I would say a lot more confident in the Kansas City Chiefs, just due to experience. We talked about it on the last episode. Me and Will were big on the experience of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And like you said, Will, wrapping your point into this as well, going down 10 at halftime, I said that it never really looked like they were out of it, but I couldn't really get a good feeling. I bet there was a lot of people, and I know a few people that took Chiefs money line at halftime. It was just the fact that I feel like if any team were to go down and come back and win the game out of these two teams, it would have had to have been the Chiefs. I think if Philadelphia was down, they beat themselves up. They're done. Patrick Mahomes, I would say that if Patrick Mahomes doesn't go down 10 going into halftime, I don't know. Like if they're down 3, if they're up 3, if they're up 7, I could see them having less likely odds. It sounds crazy, I know. Having less likely odds towards winning the game. Being down 2 scores, you're going into halftime, but you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Eric Bieniemy, you have Andy Reid, who have all either coached and or played in a Super Bowl, who have won a Super Bowl. And it just shows that difference of coaching. And I bet Sirianni and his crew, if or when they get back to this moment, it's going to be a lot different in terms of their style of coaching, in terms of, their script of plays, of how they run plays, of their momentum switches, of like what they want to do in terms of everything. The Chiefs just had it down pat. They've been there. They've done it before. And that's big for coaching. And it really proved. And I feel like that once again wraps up. I'm trying to kind of collectively add up all of our points, but I feel like that also adds up to special teams stuff, where special teams, in my opinion, if you coach special teams the way that you're supposed to coach special teams, it affects the game in ways that this game was affected. So this just shows how well coached I would say both teams are in the special teams department, but it shows just that little bit of oomph that Kansas City gets from being here before, and that I feel like that experience is the reason why they won this game by 3.
I wanted to say back to like the points, like you comparing like, okay, if they were down like only a touchdown or it was a 1-score instead of a 2-score game, I feel like Andy Reid going into the locker room immediately, you get the green light to be like, okay, we need to make a big adjustment here. We need to really turn things around and we need to make a comeback. Like we're like, we can't be just down 10 and think, okay, we're done. Like bigger things have to happen. If you're down only 1 score, you can kind of go with the mentality, okay, let's tweak the small things and see what works and make adjustments as we go. I feel like having that bigger gap within the score for them honestly helps them because they can just flip the script on the Eagles, and why would they ever be ready for it?
Well, at the same time, too, you have more time in the Super Bowl to adjust. You have a half-hour block compared to 15 minutes or whatever. I think it's 45 minutes. However long you have.
Because I think Rihanna was 25, and then they have another 15.
Yeah, however long you
have,
they have more time to adjust. And the Chiefs were right there, essentially, right? Like the plays that they were running in the first half worked, but minus the 2 drives, just Philadelphia was unstoppable. And getting the ball first really helped them. And in the second half, rather. So that it propelled them, and there was no answer. There's no answer for Patrick Mahomes. He was limping off the field and all this stuff, and then he was just whatever they gave him. I'm dying to know what that.
Oh, they gave him something.
They gave him something because he couldn't walk to end that second half, or to end the first half. I'm sorry.
To end the first half, he came back and he ran for 44 yards in total. He had that long scamper for 26 yards that got them a pivotal first down in big field positioning. It was beautiful. And Kelsey, who didn't go over 100 yards in this game, still found his way into the end zone in the first quarter. Just an absolute lock. He had 6 receptions on 6 targets. He had 81 yards. I mean, that's everything you could ask for from Travis Kelce. And as a Chiefs bettor, this is actually going to be funny. Juju Smith-Schuster, who, has been battling injuries all season, I was praying to God that he wasn't going to play. I thought, and I'm rooting for the Chiefs. I'm thinking if Juju plays, I feel like Juju has more of a chance to mess something up than anybody else does, because someone like Sky Moore or Marquez Valdez-Scantling, or I guess you could say Justin Watson at tight end, because they like to run a lot of extra tight ends if you have a wide receiver out, especially. They are too scared to mess something up, and I was scared that Juju was going to maybe tip a ball, get it up in the air, would be picked off, something like that, or make a mental error. And Juju had, 7 grabs for 53 yards. That's a great game from Juju, especially in the Super Bowl. Justin Watson, who's the 3rd string tight end, or I guess you could argue the backup, and Noah Gray, the 3rd string tight end, Central Mass native Noah Gray. It was a team performance. And it goes back to the point everybody's talking about this, so I'm just gonna say it real quick. Losing Tyreek Hill is a big blow, but when you have Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't matter really who your wide receivers are, especially with someone like a Travis Kelce there who will be open every time you need him. Patrick Mahomes will literally just put the ball in your hands. You don't have to do much as a wide receiver. He's going to put the ball exactly where it needs to be. All you have to do is close your hands. And Patrick Mahomes, only 182 yards, did exactly what he needed to do. Name another time you've seen somebody throw under 200 yards in the NFL and still throw for 3 touchdowns. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes did it efficiently. They did it on the ground efficiently. They played defense tremendously, and overall, it wasn't Patrick Mahomes who had to take over, and he won the Super Bowl MVP. But I would say that the Chiefs' defense, even though they still gave up 35 points, was probably the most important part of their game, behind the special teams too.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy when you look at the stats that, I mean, just all postseason. Mahomes, I think he threw 70% in the postseason. He barely turned the ball over. I don't even think he did. Might have thrown one interception all postseason, but I can't remember it.
I don't think he did.
I know he fumbled. I don't know about interceptions, but he just unreal. Like,
he didn't.
Generational talent. Like, we're watching greatness when he steps on the field, and this game lived up to the hype. And I love how we didn't talk about the call at the end of the game, because when it comes down to it, we don't want to spend any negative energy on this game. This was an excellent game. Like, I had a great time watching this Super Bowl. Action. Jalen Hurts I think Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback in the league. Mahomes solidifies himself as number 1. I don't think there's much argument. My top 5 right now, I'll go Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Hurts, Herbert.
In no particular order?
In that order.
Okay, I'm gonna go in no particular order. But first off, Mahomes, clear-cut number 1, which I said on the last episode. He wins this. He is the best player in the league. He is number 1 in the league. But for quarterbacks, I would go Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar fully healthy, and Hurts. I would throw Hurts. I don't think Herbert's there. And I mean, this is a both podcast, but
going Mahomes, 1 clear cut, obviously, and then I think 2 to 5 is you can kind of interchange. I'm gonna go Burrow, Allen, Hurts, Lamar healthy.
Yeah, I just don't.
And I think Herbert falls just underneath, just after. Yeah. I mean, it was a tough year. You have to play into that too. It was a tough year for Lamar, but I feel like Lamar fully healthy is absolutely ridiculous.
MVP.
But MVP. Like, we can't.
That 5th spot for me is up. I'm not putting Lamar necessarily right there. I'm debating putting Trevor Lawrence in that 5th spot after what we've seen from him in the second half of the year. I cannot wait to get back. I mean, it sucks that football's over, but this is why we love football. We can debate it all offseason. When free agency rolls around, when the draft rolls around, we will be debating the top 5, top whoever, right? Who's the best team, the power rankings, all this stuff, all the fun stuff.
But for now, it's over.
Yes. For now, the
NFL season is over. The Kansas City Chiefs have been crowned king once again, back in their throne, well-deserved. Just a great season. No such thing as a bad slate. In turn, there's no such thing as a bad NFL season. One of the better seasons, I would say, in the past 5-10 years, of just storylines of different quarterbacks stepping up. The next generation of quarterbacks is rolling through. So I think that's a big reason why I would mark this as one of the bigger seasons. You know, we had an emergence of Hurts. We had an emergence of Trevor Lawrence. A lot of people took strides like Tua when healthy. You could even argue Joe Burrow got better this season. And then, of course, the king, rightfully crowned now, Patrick Mahomes, officially the best player in the NFL, the best quarterback currently in the NFL, and 2-time Super Bowl champion. But with that being said,
my last shout out.
Sorry to take NFL season. Last shout out. No, get him out of the way.
Shout out Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen. Phenomenal job in the booth.
They did a great job in the booth. I wasn't a big fan of the pregame or the halftime show, in my opinion. But in the booth, Greg Olsen, I'm sorry Tom Brady's going to take a job.
I feel so bad for him.
I genuinely feel like he's going to be on the B team. And Greg Olsen is an A team
that's a $7 million pay cut. From moving from the A to B team, it's $10 million to $3 million, which in the broad term of things, $3 million a year. Are you kidding me? But it sucks because I think Greg Olsen has earned his spot on the A team. Kevin Burkhardt, he has an excellent story as well. He did a phenomenal job when the season first kind of rolled around and people were saying, "Oh, Fox is going to get the Super Bowl without Buck and Aikman." No, Burkhardt and Olsen did an excellent job. I'm glad we're going to see them in the booth one more time together as well, because Brady's not going to take over Fox until 25 or whatever the season after this one is.
Yeah, I mean, so in turn, Will, end of the season, final shout outs, final Final thoughts on this
Gosh.
NFL season.
Let's see. I got Herbert MVP season loading next year.
All right. Hopefully, in my dreams, it's gonna be a tough division next year. But I can't believe I even just said that. We're not gonna be talking about divisions yet. We will soon. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be wild. Welcome to basketball season, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna have a lot of fun throughout here. Just a great way to end this season, though. Obviously, football. We are inside the 5. That is a football term. That is our kind of bread and butter. But it's time to transition. We got a lot of basketball to talk. We got a lot of stuff to cover, and we will see you guys then later in the week with some college basketball, with some NBA as well. We hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for tuning in throughout the season. If you guys like basketball, make sure to keep tuning in to us. And yeah, great season and peace.
Peace.